Demonic presence at unsafe levels. Lockdown in effect.
There are many demons, but there's only one.
Electro-demon.
Mother Miranda, I regret to inform you that Ethan Winters has escaped that fool Heisenberg. Because he is in my castle and has already proven too much for my daughters to handle. When I find him...
Resident Evil Village is the new Resident Evil game. It's a first-person shooter like its predecessor, Resident Evil 7. Is it any good? Stick with this review to find out.
To hell with the ceremony!
Resident Evil Village takes place in an Eastern European village. Ethan Winters, the character you played with in the previous game, and his wife Mia and daughter Rose have moved to a small European village. Certain events happen and your wife and child are abducted. You're on a search for them in order to save them, and basically you have to kill the 4 village lords and then the boss of them all, Mother Miranda. That's as brief of a synopsis that I can tell you. The story is awesome and I really think you should discover it for yourself. I don't want to spoil it for you. This time around there is sort of a hub world, the village. It's not a sandbox and it's not a huge open world, but it's well designed and offers many secrets and treasures to be discovered. The main locations are also well designed too. There are 4 main locations and 4 main lords, as the game calls them. The first one is Lady Dimitrescu's castle. This section of the game was most featured in promotional videos and trailers prior to game release. In Castle Dimitrescu, you'll square off against Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters. It's a big castle and it's filled with secrets and puzzles to solve. There's action here, but not too much. It's a scary section and definitely the most atmospheric. It feels like old Resident Evil to me. And Lady Dimitrescu is just such a good character. Her enormous height and huge tits are bomb. There are sections in the castle where she's chasing you, and those are very thrilling. After her castle, the next section is House Benviento, Donna Benviento, the doll maker. This section is by far the scariest in the whole game. There's a cool central puzzle revolving a doll that takes some time to figure out, and generally this section is very scary. But it feels more like Silent Hill than Resident Evil, but I like it. And the fight with Donna is just something extremely creepy. After that, the next section is Morose Reservoir. It's an interesting location, it has a lot of action. After this location, you'll go to the last Lord's location, and that is Heisenberg's factory. This is the most action-packed section of the game, and it's quite long. But the factory has an interesting design, and some new enemies appear there. After that, there is some more before you finally face off with Mother Miranda, but I won't spoil it for you. Resident Evil took the first-person perspective in Resident Evil 7 and Village is the same. I have nothing against this new perspective. The gunplay is great, I really enjoyed it. There's a pistol, shotgun, sniper rifle, knife, grenade launcher, assault rifle and a magnum. The enemies in Resident Evil Village move kinda slowly, and if you're playing it on PC, you might want to consider upping up the challenge a bit because it's easy to land headshots on mouse and keyboard. The most common enemy are the Lycans. There are a few variations of Lycans, for example, Lycans with armor, etc. There are flying gargoyle creatures that can easily be dispatched with sniper rifle. In Heisenberg's factory, you'll meet new enemies, different types of monsters with glowing red weak spot. There's even a wolf-like creature that's a bitch to deal with, and a few other monsters. The enemy variety is good, and thematically all the creatures fit in this world. There's the Duke, who's a fat merchant from whom you can buy guns, ammo, recipes, and even upgrade your weapons. Feels very similar to the merchant from Resident Evil 4. I like him. He can buy things from you in exchange for money. He can even cook for you if you have the right ingredients. These meals provide permanent buffs, so it's in your best interest to search them out. The puzzles are great in Resident Evil Village, although a bit too easy. But they're well designed, with collecting keys, examining items, and solving something from the clues gathered in the environment. There's inventory management and limited space in your inventory, but it's nowhere near the complexity of old-school Resident Evil games. There's even crafting in this game. You can craft ammo, healing items, grenades, mines, and more. Resident Evil Village is a somewhat scary game. There are definitely sections that are scary and some sections are action-packed, and I'm fine with that. Resident Evil Village manages to be a Resident Evil game, but with a touch of modernity and streamlining. Lady Dimitrescu's section is my favorite part of the game. Shame it's over fairly quickly. Her appearance is beautiful and scary at the same time, but all four sections are unique and very different from one another, and I was hooked. I've beat Resident Evil Village in almost 2 or 3 settings. That's a testament to the design. Rarely a game has me this glued to the screen. I was hooked from the start. The story is incredible, characters are interesting and well written. Gunplay, exploration, combat and puzzles are all very interesting. And the graphics are amazing. Everything looks sharp and nicely detailed. There's an odd low poly texture here and there, but overall the game looks next gen. There's support for ray tracing, but I have a Vega 64, so I wasn't able to try this feature. What's a goddamn annoyance is the missing FOV slider. There isn't a way to adjust FOV, and that's not acceptable in a 2021 PC game. Most people playing this on the PC will play this on a monitor, and the default FOV for that use is not appropriate. Feels way too close. The game also feels a bit too easy. I played on the standard difficulty and had almost zero trouble, and I fought every single enemy I encountered without keeping an eye on my ammo. Ammo was plentiful, and with the ability to craft it, well, it's nothing. This is an action horror game and not survival horror. When you accept that, you'll have a great time. But for seasoned Resident Evil fans, I definitely suggest playing on hard for the first time. Resident Evil Village is definitely my favorite game of this year. It's just a great game with great mechanics, gameplay and execution. It's a solid 10-hour long action horror experience that is definitely worth playing. If I had to give a score to this game, I'd give it 9.9 out of 10.